As a Quaker, I've had an opportunity to be engaged in some quiet diplomacy efforts, and I wanted to share the Quaker values and those efforts with you this evening briefly. I grew up in southern Ohio, in Wilmington, Ohio, which is a city filled with Quakers. Lots of Quakers settled there, having left the South to avoid slavery. Northwest Territory, Ohio and Indiana was where they settled. And in Wilmington, the large churches are the Catholic Church and the Friends Church. Generalizing from my experience, I assumed that the great religions of the world were the Quakers and the Catholics. There are only 1 million Quakers in the whole world, but I grew up in the midst of many of them. This is my family. I had a grandmother who grew up on a Quaker farm, and she had 15 brothers and sisters. And so with all of those aunts and uncles, it was inevitable that I would become a Quaker. And I want to comment on why the Quakers are so good at quiet diplomacy. In 1947, they won the Nobel Peace Prize for their quiet diplomatic efforts and their relief work in Germany after World War I and World War II. I think it's 3 reasons that the Quakers are good at this. One is the value of believing that there's that of God in everyone, the inner light. And when you meet people, you're looking for the good in those people. You're seeking to bring out the best in them. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you meet someone as the enemy to be rejected, it doesn't work. Quiet diplomacy works when you meet someone seeking to find the good in them. Quakers rejected violence. We have to find other ways to solve differences. And thirdly, Quakers believed, had a vision of a better world. And they thought that that was possible. Many of you know the Quaker Edward Hicks, who painted this picture of Isaiah 11:6, where he talked about the wolf and the lamb will lie down together and they will be led by a child. Edward Hicks painted more than 60 versions of this same painting, The Peaceable Kingdom. And the small group here is William Penn talking to the Indians. And William Penn's a Quaker who came to organize Philadelphia and Pennsylvania on Quaker principles. And he said, "Let us see what love can do. We've done a lot with hate. We've been angry at each other. Let's see what love can do." These values, the inner light, rejecting war, and believing in a better vision for the world, make Quakers good at quiet diplomacy. The story I wanted to share is the story of an effort we had at Phillips Academy, Andover, to establish an exchange with students from the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And the first step was that we had to be sure that when they negotiated the treaty at Geneva in the first summit of Gorbachev and Reagan, that they included the word school. And they did. And here we have President Reagan and leader Gorbachev agreeing at the summit that they would have cultural and educational exchanges. Andover proposed that we have students come from a school in Novosibirsk in the Soviet Union and study for a semester at Andover. Here we are welcoming these Soviet students, and these were the first high school students ever allowed to leave the Soviet Union and live and study at an American high school. It was a remarkable experience. It was important for our students from Andover to go to the Soviet Union, to live there in 1987, and for these students to come to Andover. We then When they left, President Reagan invited them to the White House, and they went back to the Soviet Union. This had a profound impact on the students, our two institutions, and we developed real friendships, personal relationships. My family and I, Galen and Heather were in the 9th and 6th grade when we went to spend 3 months teaching at the school in Novosibirsk. And I'll never forget the day when Galen came home from 6th grade going to a public school, 166 in Novosibirsk, and she had a large target with bullet holes in it. And we said, "Galen, what did you do in school today?" And she said, "We had military preparedness." First, there was a wonderful sense of relief. I had grown up fearing the Cold War, and if that's what stood between our two countries were 6th graders who'd gone to a rifle range, I felt much safer. But Galen explained that they had learned how to assemble a rifle and shoot at a target. And I hope that was the last time the director of Friends Education at Moses Brown School used a rifle. Okay, we did this exchange have any impact? It was quiet diplomacy. We were working with educators in a different country. Did it have an impact? That's hard to evaluate, but we established the exchange in 1987. The Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and the Soviet Union broke up in 1991, and they became democratic and capitalist. I'm not sure the exchange was totally responsible for that, but there were many efforts. As they said in the TED video, we each do what we can in order to promote this. Let me just mention 2 more efforts. One was with North Korea, and the question was, could a group of Quaker educators, this is the president of Swarthmore, the head of the Friends Council on Education, and myself from Guilford College, in 1996, went to North Korea to try to encourage them to send a delegation to visit our colleges and our schools. And when we got there, we were immediately taken to this large statue of Kim Il-sung and given flowers to place at the base of the statue. There was this one awful moment when I looked and I said, I know we're not supposed to worship idols, but I've come 18 hours. Maybe I could just nod gently and go on with the negotiations. And sure enough, they agreed. They took us to schools, and they agreed eventually to send delegates to visit. They came, and they were agri-scientists who wanted to take all of the information they could gather from our institutions back to North Korea to deal with the famine issue that they faced there. I'll never forget the moment we took the agri-scientists to visit a high school in North Carolina with the FFA, the Future Farmers of America. And they got into a discussion of greenhouses. And the students said, "What do you make your greenhouses out of?" And the North Koreans said, "Glass." And the students said, no, the research shows that plastic is better, that it keeps the warmth, it's cheaper. And there was this long pause, and the North Koreans said, "We're very familiar with the research, but your country has an embargo on our country, and it won't let oil in, and we don't have the oil to make the plastic, to make the greenhouses." And there was a wonderful moment there of high school students and North Korean representatives discussing practical things like agriculture, and yet having a political implication that related. We have a new leader in North Korea, Kim Il-sung, and at first we were optimistic. It appeared there would be talks, and then there was the effort to fire the rocket. And for me, it's time for more quiet diplomacy. Can this young leader be appealed to in ways that others couldn't? When I came to Moses Brown graduation 3 or 4 years ago, the speaker was a Moses Brown graduate. Christopher Hill, who's in the Foreign Service, and at that point, he was conducting the U.S. negotiations with North Korea, and his comment was, "The values I learned here at Moses Brown have been very helpful in these efforts to negotiate." Let me just mention, this is President Ahmadinejad from Iran. This is 6 years ago. He wanted to meet with U.S. religious leaders, and many churches said, "No, it's too controversial, we won't talk to him." The Quakers were willing to talk, eventually sent a delegation to visit in Tehran, and it's all on hold now after the violence, after the elections in Iran. Does quiet diplomacy go on today? Yes, indeed. This is the General Assembly of the United Nations. The Quakers have a small office and a house 3 blocks from the UN, and here in the living room of the house, they bring together diplomats for informal talks off the record to try to promote that sense of quiet diplomacy. Let me just end by saying you too can be a quiet diplomat. Look for the good in everyone you meet. Reject violence as a means, and live to make the world a better place. One of the quietest Quaker efforts was carried out by a Moses Brown alumnus from 1882. Rufus Jones came from China Lake, Maine, and came to Moses Brown, went on to be a great Quaker leader and to be the professor of religion and Quakerism at Haverford College. As the storm clouds of war were gathering in Europe, and as the persecution of Jews was becoming better known, Moses Brown's alumnus, Rufus Jones, and 2 other Quakers went to talk to Hitler in December of 1938. They didn't get to talk to Hitler, but they talked to Himmler's top person, and they got agreement that the Quakers could work in Germany to help Jews emigrate away from Germany into other countries. The war started within a year, but during that year, the Quakers were able to help people leave Germany. So tonight, with quiet diplomacy, with those Quaker values of looking for the good, rejecting violence, and believing that the world can be better, I hope you'll join me, Moses Brown alumni, and many others in trying to make the world a better place so that the peaceable kingdom does become a reality. Thank you.